Hello, this is Robert Capucci. I'd like to thank you for joining us at another featured FitPro interview hosted to you by PTontheNet. My guest here today is Greg Roskopf, founder of MAT, Muscle Activation Technique. Greg, thank you for joining us, and how are you today?
Good.
Greg, before we even get started, what led you to start an organization such as MAT? What was the need that you saw? What was your motivation for doing this?
I started out as a strength and conditioning coach at Fresno State in California, and I had actually had a fractured vertebrae when I was 19. And so being in the exercise world, all I cared about was exercise, the muscle system, got a master's degree in exercise science, and really thought I understood training. But the problem was, after that fractured vertebrae, I started having one injury after another. By the time I was 25 years old, I had patellofemoral issues, plantar fasciitis, hip problems, back was still bothering me, and it was just one continual problem that I couldn't take care of. And by the time I was 25, I'm like, if I'm this bad at 25, what am I going to be like when I'm 50? And so I was frustrated. And so I started seeking out specialists in all fields, from physical therapy to chiropractic to exercise training. And one of the key factors behind every specialty field was that the reason that you're having all these problems is because you're tight. And I was as tight as could be. My hamstring flexibility, I could barely, bend down to my knees. And so starting to learn from some of the top specialists out there, I started understanding the interrelationships of how to put the ankle, the knee, the hip, the trunk, how everything was interrelated. And so I recognized that, well, if I have motion, optimal motion in all of these areas, then I should be able to take stress off the injured tissues. And the problem with me personally was that every time I would stretch or get deep tissue massage, I'd feel worse. And so every modality that was being prescribed to me to try and take care of the problem was actually making me feel worse. And so now I'm really frustrated, because I think I know about the body, and I'm helping some of my clients that I'm seeing, but I couldn't help myself. And so I was that unique individual that wasn't responding to conventional rehabilitation. And so then I just asked a question. Probably the easiest question was, well, why do muscles tighten up in the first place? And it's like, well, is the nervous system just playing a joke on you, just trying to tighten things up? And it's like, well, there's got to be some protective mechanism that's going on. And so I compared it to like walking on ice. The first thing you do when you walk on ice is you tighten up is a protective mechanism. So there's a natural ingrained mechanism in the nervous system that says when the body senses instability, it tightens up to try and protect you from injury. And so when you walk on ice, that's an external unstable surface, but when you have weaknesses in the body, or the muscle system can't do their job to stabilize joint, then the same intrinsic mechanism can occur. So I started looking at the opposite thought process, that maybe this tightness is not the cause, and maybe the tightness is part of the symptom that's saying there's some underlying instability issue that we need to take care of. And so in the exercise realm, I was learning, okay, you have to have core stability, you have to strengthen the muscles that stabilize the spine and the abdominal muscles, and I was doing all of this all these exercises just try and strengthen my core and create this stability, but nothing was helping. So I looked at it as the stability issue really isn't a strength issue. I had all the strength in the world. At this time, I'm bench pressing 400 pounds, squatting 500 pounds. So strength was not an issue, but I was being told that if you strengthen the muscles that support the joint, then you won't have pain in those joints.
So what was the answers that you found?
What's that?
So what answer did you find? What was the issue?
Then I started looking at this instability. That I had the opportunity to work with a chiropractor with the Utah Jazz that did some muscle testing and started looking at the communication between the nervous system and the muscle system, and found that every time you have stress, trauma, or overuse on tissues, it actually alters the communication between the nervous system and the muscle system. So basically, when the brain sends a message to the muscles, it's like having loose battery cables. The muscles can't contract, they don't get the information. So they're kind of sluggish, just like when you try and start your car with a loose battery, it's a vroom, vroom, vroom. Well, the brain's sending the message, but the muscles can't contract and contract on demand, which means they can't do their job to stabilize joints, or can contract on demand to protect yourself from loads or forces being placed on the tissue.
So in essence, what is MAT?
MAT is a systematic process designed to assess the communication pathways between the nervous system and the muscular system to make sure that every muscle in the body can contract properly. Because when you have trauma to tissue, you start losing the ability for these muscles to contract efficiently, so other muscles have to jump in and do the job of the weak muscle.